Alright, so this post is circles in the sand, and I realized when trying to talk about it to a friend that most people apparently probably won't even know what CERN is, or does, or has been used for, or what the Higgs boson is, or anything about quantum mechanics or quantum physics. But it's really not that complicated. There's a few documentaries, obviously. One of the ones that I remember watching a while back is called Particle Fever, and it's on YouTube if you can find it. But obviously CERN is a particle collider, or a large hadron collider, about 17 miles, I believe, in diameter, in Geneva, Switzerland. And they basically accelerate particles and collide them to watch or to see and calculate the effects on a quantum scale, basically in different fields, different ways, as experiments, basically. And obviously there's like a lot of apprehension about that, because it sounds like something out of like a Resident Evil or some sort of sci-fi movie. But like, obviously I think if something like that were to happen, I mean, those sort of things, like a black hole or an interdimensional portal or a alternate parallel universe type thing, that could happen anyway, apparently. Like, I mean, regardless of whatever weird tinkering with, So I think the subject is very interesting, though, and so I've analyzed it like Kabbalistically, like I have with Hebrew applied to English, the basic like Kabbalah, basically. And there's a lot of interesting connections. And I'm not even a big comic book reader, but I found this picture a while back, and I thought it was fitting. And it's apparently the Demiurge. And on this like website I found, they called it the Demiurge Earth 616. And the sentient life force of Earth's biosphere, who seeded the Earth with pieces of its own life essence, giving birth to the elder gods. And it just makes me realize or think about how even people associate 616 as being like the true number of the beast, simply because it's referred to or written down in this Anxi Kairos papyrus. I really don't know how to pronounce it, but Oxyrhynchus papyrus. Oxyrhynchus. And, but I mean, that's one of many, and it could be an error. And either way, 666 itself is important for its numerous attributions, but also the properties of its relation to the circle of, or the sum of 1 through 36 in the tetrahedral field of space-time. And obviously 616, I don't know, just what I was going to say is it shows that we already attribute and have for a long time, like culturally, cross-culturally, attributed meaning to numbers. So I don't see why it's so hard for people to understand that, like, I don't know, the field of numbers, or the spectrum, 1 to even just 1,000, can be confusing to people, but it is a field. It's a logical numerical. 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. And so all the mystic numbers, as they call them, the sum of like 1 through any number, and then that sum has a relation to the mystic number itself. Like 55 being the sum of 1 through 10 is Malka, the bride, the daughter, which is related to Malkuth. And same with like it's literally quantum or holographic in the sense that like it's got self-referencing properties. Basically, that's how like phrases can be built into or up out of these fundamental forms. And I don't know, it just seems like language itself is mathematical, but we're not even, it's like pre-cognitive or pre-encoded in a way. And like 616, Kenneth Grant mentions it as Agartha, the underworld or underground kingdom. And for whatever reason, I think of 616 as being, I think of Sirius, but it literally is related to basically Typhon, also Typhon, one spelling of Typhon, as well as Ta'ert. And what is it? The Sirius mystery talks about the number 50 being related to the cycles of Sirius and the symbolism of Sirius. And obviously 50 is the difference between 616 and 666. But again, this thing is like confusing to people, but obviously this book, The Ninth Arch by Kenneth Grant, is a sort of like gematria database in a way, but again, it's where these things come in, it's the context. And some of these things are like quasi-fictional in the sense like Lovecraft and whatnot, but the alignments, again, dates and times and the values of certain things, it literally is about being able to look at things through the sort of like numerical lens. And this book itself is basically, I've already like read some parts of it, but it's Liber 29. It's these different verses basically, which Kenneth Grant analyzes and links to various things that he's talked about. And so it says, what a lugubrious game, which I had pulled this up because I didn't even, there's so many things here that like I never looked this up, but one of the Salvador Dali paintings is called The Lugubrious Game. It's also called something else. The Dismal Sport. And it's a lot of, it's a typical Salvador, well, it's really not typical in the sense that there's some weird symbolism, but quantum mysticism. Kenneth Grant refers to Salvador Dali quite often in his books. Obviously, the surreal, like dream blending nature of his work is kind of what Kenneth Grant tries to tap into. And it's similar, like it's on the coattail, or it's like very similar to Austin Osman Spare's artwork. The Lugubrious Games is the anglicized title of a painting by Salvador Dali. It contains a key to the nature of the operation associated with the three. See prior comment. The painting may be looked at in the light of the book Akbish, or the Book of the Spider. According to Golden Dawn teaching, the verse number denotes the daughter. So 10. 10 also equals Cheth-Beth, a hidden place, and Jebah, or Jeb. Jeb is like the earth aspect of the old ancient Egyptian Nuit and Jeb tradition of, it's like Hadith basically. And Had is also 10. To issue from the earth when hatched as locusts, crabs, or beetles. So again, the Kephra in a way. The word derives from the Kamite Kef, or Kep, generate, transform, assume shape. We are here again on the track of the beetle brood of Isis in the hidden place, Dongola. Again, so our Agartha, the like the underground kingdom, it's really the inner, or the clifothic, or the underlying, which again here, if I remember, beneath the desert of Mongolia or in the Sangpo Valley of China. So he's saying the desert, that outer zone, which there's some outposts, you could say, like terrestrially, that represent gateways in a way. What, like he says, like the Polynesia area is like a myth, or is a terrestrial outpost, basically, of the old ones. Wherever located, the implied meaning is to be found in the amenta of the Kamite gnosis. This was later schematized as the magnetic fields of Sekhet Aaru, or like basically the fields of bliss. Beneath their furrows lay the ramifying tunnels of Set, which branch into the 22 shells or scales of the serpent of the Qliphoth. So basically the magnetic fields of the Kundalini, the toroidal, cosmic generative force. But Earth should know this. And he says, according to the Kabbalist Isaac Deloria, there are 11 classes of shells. The particular class indicated by the comment to the previous verse is that of Shemiron, the Qliphoth of Pisces. So again, in the Qliphoth of Pisces, the fish is associated with Sirius and all that. In the deep ones, yeah. So, and more specifically with the esoteric order of Dagon, Dag, the fish. It should be borne in mind that the ancients signified the number 11 by the letter O, the egg or the eye. And again, egg, 5 plus 3 plus 3, is also 11, which thereby encompassed an entire range of the Qliphothic forces. The oracle Dagim, signifying the sign of the zodiac attributed to cough and to sleep, this indicates the chakra of the subconsciousness situated within the brain, back of the head. 617 is also Tavira, a god who erected a shrine in honor of Oragona. It contained black stones known as kala or tektites. A variant orthograph of Tavira, I guess with Teth, yields 226, Aker, the god who dwelleth in Set. The present verse is therefore alerting the inhabitants of Earth to the fire that is soon to erupt from the tunnels of Set. Aker signifies the back or underworld, i.e. the Amenta. A reading confirmed by the oracle in that 617 is Amudi Hash Vahan, or Columne Nubis et Ignis. So a column of fire. That out of lost time, and lost time suggests some sort of time warp between dimensions, a loop in which an entity locked into it would suffer consequences inconceivable by the waking mind. The oracle is Omfi, an oracle. There is an expression, Ein Omfi, and Ein again is the void, so the voice of the void, or in the void, which the Greeks contracted to Nymphi, and supposed such an entity, i.e. the nymph or oracle, to be an infernal goddess who presided over fountains. So like Hecate. The oracle means literally fountains of the oracle, particularly hot springs. The word Nymphi is also 998. The word Nymphi, which can be 998 or 999 actually, is the bride, the Kore Cosmoi of some Gnostic sects. On the system that the two successive numbers are frequently regarded as expressions of a single value, which may not otherwise be expressed more precisely, being fractional. Nymphi as 999 defines the ultimate trinity of 333 plus 333 plus 333, or Silba Idzaxar Shugal. These concepts are projections from the astral light of Idola from lost time onto the auric screen of the terrestrial sphere. Also, it's important to realize the oracle is also 333, and So the 666 oracle, all these things kind of connect, but again, they parse out and break apart into these, well, it's not like they break apart, but these various bits come together to form these alignments, and I don't know, it's somewhat surprising, somewhat not. 6, 19, 13. And again, these second numbers are because they were divided in 29, 29, 29, like chapters of 29 verses, basically. And they go up to like 924 because there was a few more than 29 times 29, which is 841. But 619, the Qliphoth of Doth will descend. This, together with 620, the next verse, reflects in a curiously oblique fashion an ancient Kabbalistic doctrine carried over by initiates of the Golden Dawn. It involves the fall of knowledge, ascribed to the Sephirah Doth, to a position of mere pendant Malkuth to the Tree of Life. And yeah, this whole concept is where the fall and waking and dreaming and sleeping, and this electric charge, has been diverted, kind of away from the dreamer, from your own will, basically, is being diverted into a dreamlike creation, and I don't know. Malkuth is known as both the kingdom and the bride. By permutation, the word Malkuth becomes Lam Koth, as Koth, which is the hollow tube or pillar, again associated with like the Agarthi and Doth. It has been assigned to a black tower standing solitary in the twilight zone. The mauve zone is indicated. Again, this is that fourth ray relating to the final hay, of where the crystallization or the mundane, like the waking, the field itself comes into being. The tower stands sentinel to the tunnels of Set. It is also associated with Lam. Obviously, it's also like the dark Kundalini. There's even a term, they call it the Kundar Tigwador, or the Kunda Buffer. It's like the dark Kundalini. The verse suggests that it may be the standing stone of Set, or a hollow stone or shaft acting in Malkuth as a conduit to the downbeat Qliphoth of Doth, the 11th Sephirah. The shaft penetrates the earth, thus enabling the force to merge with the lower Qliphoth and to void themselves through the tunnels of Set. These forces may be controlled and diverted into the 13 globes of Yog-Sothoth. The sign for invoking the globes includes Olyaram, a form of Ilyarun, whose formula appears in the Silbaic Gnosis, which the wisdom of Silba, outer gateways. The sign of Koth may therefore be related to or identical with the sign of Yog-Sothoth's evocation. The oracle is Akrith, or Atrith, of the 9th, a reference to the 9th arch, and as 619 is one more than Ain Omfi, fountains of the oracle, it combines these two concepts. And I know it's also Helios and Selene, the sun and the moon in Greek. And Marilyn Manson refers to it in If I Was Your Vampire. And obviously he sees it as this Baphometic number, which there's the tower too, with the magnetism itself is 609. 620, the number of Kether, is also Chakma, Bina, and Doth, the inverted triangle. But below Malkuth and void themselves through the tunnels of Set. See comment 619. The number 14 is attributed to the path of Daleth, a door, as well as Zahab, gold. So the gold, 107, the door of the final hay. It is also the number of Chegba, she is hollow, which recalls Katha, the Hollow One, and the Tower of Lam, perhaps its feminine equivalent. The oracle is the number of Isis, and Kenneth Grant also mentioned somewhere that the word well is 71 as well. The oracle is a number of Isis and of Chakma Bina Doth, the first descending triad. And it's not just Doth as 474, but with the Va, or Vav, Vadoth. 620 is the number of Kether, ascribed to Pluto, into the ultimate door, or gateway, leading from the supernals to the outer ones. Note also 620 is Shorim, the doors, indicating the stellar or Chakma and Saturnian Bina and Uranian Doth gateways. 621, a man named Black will open the gate. Dr. Phineas Marsh Black's history is recounted in the Nightside narrative Against the Light. He was a relative of the present commentator, Kenneth Grant, although the scryer was unaware of the fact at the time of this transmission. Dr. Black opened the gate for Frater Eosic. The oracle is Or-Chuth, or Or-Chuth, Chavath, bypaths, which comprehends also the Avor-Chavath Aklikuth, which also comprehends the Orchuth Atklik-Levuth crooked bypaths, such as those into which the Curwins strayed, and also perhaps Crowley. Those will fall through whom Black Eagle lets pass. You will recover the stone, you who hold the sword of Zin and understand the knowing wink of Zos, and the unwavering glance of Sin Sin Wa, whose eye is single, and the word that arose. Set all this forth in a special book, so that those that read will quote the words of the Master's angel. Why hast thou whispered so ambiguous things? So, yeah, this book goes on and on. I love the Ninth Arch. But yeah, CERN is kind of an interesting subject for various reasons. They say it's like the birthplace of the internet. It's the biggest machine ever built by man. And there's a lot of more potential, I think, for that. But let's hope that hoping it isn't going to do anything, but people might use this for other things, not like breaking the dimensional barriers or anything like that, but more like mind control and mass data acquisition and processing. But I thought it was cool that CERN with a non-final has a value of 913, which is, Liber Bereshith, or T-Sharb really, because it's all about that reversal or turning backwards. And it happens to be 666 plus 247. And 24/7 or 247 is a number that's been coming up a few times recently. And, I know people are triggered by numerology itself because a lot of people do not know how to understand numerology. And, no one mentions the Kabbalah. They just call it angel numbers. And, that's the thing though, is these values are just logical, connectives, basically. When you apply this ancient formula of the Hebrew applied to English, you could take CERN and use a Gimel, because A, B, C, Aleph, Beth, Gimel. Again, that kind of complicates things, I guess, for some people. But each number, again, is a cell or a bit or a digit. And then the next one, like Kenneth Grant mentions, each one kind of logically connects into the other one, although each one has its own characteristics, I guess, because it's a point. And, it's not necessarily just a single point, but it's a single mathematical mandala. Each number is kind of like a mandala, but obviously a word or a phrase is a sort of formulation using the same bits of what that mandala would be comprised of. And it just so happens some of those mandalas or formulas or phrases resonate numerically with other, like phrases, although it's not all about just being liked being like, it's, this book though goes into the concept of Bereshith, I think the best, which is David James Smith's The Kabbalistic Mirror of Genesis. And again, the mirror of matter, mirror matter, is a sort of like hypothetical quantum counterpart to everything that exists. It's like dark matter. They also call it Alice matter, like Alice in Wonderland. And let's see, the quaternity, the fourfold structure, which has everything to do with, again, the Yod He Vav He, the Tetragrammaton, the final He especially, being, if you read the Grail Legend by Emma Young, and then Answer to Job, Young talks about how like the fourth aspect of God is evil, or it's like the dark daughter, basically, the diamond, which is, again, the Grail. And so qua being the root of quantum, it's also 107, 100 plus 6 plus 1, which is the final He, the XYZ, the all these things like that I stumbled on, the egg itself, the stone, gold, the alchemical metal of transformation. So again, all these, to summarize everything I've just like went over, we know that 913 is the number of or Bereshith or T-Sharb, which Crowley, like I've already read this book and made a video. Has everything to do with like reversing everything, like your speech, your memory, time itself, the training of the mind. And so what would the opposite of 913 be? It'd be 319. And 319 I've been thinking about already being this number of fire and alchemy, and it's literally Mercia or Mersha Eliad. I'll just show you, because I've been getting I've been trying to get all of his books. Mercia Eliad 319. And it's funny because like his book, what is it? The Myth of the Eternal Return. TheEternal. The Eternal. And so, but it's also the 300. What's 300? It's Shin. And Shin is the fire, but it's also spirit. And it's the triangle, like symbolized by the triangle. And Eliad's book, The Forge and the Crucible, is all about the history of alchemy. And that comes to mind. So basically, like, I'm just saying, I know I'm linking all this stuff, but it is literally linked, like, on its own. And these magnetic fields that Kenneth Grant was talking about, the serpent's, like, scales, or the cells, basically, are in Koth, this hollow tube, or the hollow pillar. I think that things are interlinked, basically, Kabbalistically, numerically. And so over time, especially when you look at it with the help of a gematria database, and you sort of like calculate these old myths first, that's what I did at least. I like calculated the mythological names of things in Greek and in every language I could, basically. And then I went through different subjects and I saw, holy shit, this physical, natural concept corresponds with this Greek myth of the same thing. And so, like here again, we see this sort of like literal natural device, or compound device, really, equaling something to do with literally creation itself, Bereshith, and this biblical and Kabbalistic concept that can be broken down into, again, time, and 666 being all about, I mean, this solar, atomic, alchemical, psychic, in the sense of, again, the mind, blueprint number, 247, I've realized, is Kenneth Grant talks about it. It's like a number of set in a few different ways, but it's also a number of, I think, geometry. Again, the terrestrial geometry that we're confined to, and therefore Euclidean geometry, you could say, or terrestrial geometry, and therefore the boundary. Because what is also significant is that's literally related to Pluto. I believe 247 and 248 has to do with the cycle of Pluto. Can't really type. But then 248 is also a number that comes up in the orbit of Pluto. So yeah, 248 years. I knew it was somewhere around there. And again, it's all about these cycles of time and the fact that, again, yeah, numbers, there's only so many things are going to repeat. And so, but it's where they repeat that it's kind of significant. And like, I didn't even, like, I've had a lot of things like this happen. I didn't try to end or publish the last video on March 13th. And then this this post happens to be March 13th. Literally a circle in the sand. I mean, these sort of things happen. It's not like when they, I don't know, it's a little bit of both. Like, I've used gematria, having learned it in the like titles of all of these posts, but at the same time, sometimes they've suggested themselves, and like this one, and happened to be that, and it was perfect, and I'm like, holy fuck. And I think sometimes we blindly do these sort of things as well. So yeah, I haven't even gotten into this. It's so much, so many things I want to just like bring up, but I've just got to like slow down and take it bit by bit. Anyway, CERN, when taking n for its final value of 700, has a value of 913. 913 is also 666 plus 247, or 24, it's a veil of 24/7, which is 666 identification. So see previous post, enemy number 1. Again, this whole concept of the computer, the beast system, whatever. 913 is a primary number of the demiurge, the beast system, which is created under the prism of Thoth as the ruach, or cube of space, on the tree of life. So basically, it's also an externalization of the noosphere, in a sense. It's a that's what I see as happening. Basically, is we're externalizing the hierarchy. 913 is the secret Gnostic physics of gematria, of the gematria gnosis, or knowledge, of the gematria sequence of the secret operating system of the living computer. So all of these things equal 913. 913 is the number of the very first Hebrew word of Genesis 1:1, the first verse of the Bible, and means with beginningness, not just in the beginning. See The Kabbalistic Mirror of Genesis by David Chaim Smith, or translated and simply conceived of as in the beginning. In the Greek, it is ha demiurgos, or the creator, the demiurge. And this corresponds or equals o theos, o pater, God the Father, or the God the Father, from John chapter 6, verse 27. The simple gematria value of this particular Bible verse below is also 913, and they are the words of Jesus. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. And here's a diagram kind of the tree of life from Don Carr's book, Approaching the Kabbalah of Mayat. And it shows Thoth as like an eye as well as like an orifice. And I just found it interesting. It shows the integration more so of the middle pillar in the tree itself, rather than, keeping them all separate. And if you understand the concept of this, it's similar too, I think. the Shiva lingam and yoni sort of thing. And obviously, the whole concept of time and Osiris and CERN and the point in the center of the circle and all of this sort of like magnetic, the sex act itself in a lot of ways, it is generative in like the ripples, the quantum effects, the fact that the past and then the future interconnect in a lot of ways. I think that there's a lot to be studied from that, and that obviously science is slowly developing the ability to consider more than just the flat or like not even just the flat two-dimensional or things from a flat two-dimensional, on graph paper sort of thing with math. Like, we're slowly being able to apprehend things from the dimensionality they're in, like obviously 3, 4, possibly even higher dimensions, when we can see things from a quantum state. Like, all these different potentialities lined up helps to see, I hate to say interdimensionally, but like from more than just the limited perspective of the eye and time and light, which we're limited to being humans and with, our physical organs and whatnot and senses. With quantum computers and all this sort of like maximal use of data, and it's eventually I think that eventually that will, it's kind of like how calculators themselves and the basic computer itself has monumentally expedited or expedited human progress in the last 150 to 100 years. Well, quantum computing will essentially, I think, do the same thing, provided we don't destroy ourselves or enslave ourselves in the process. The I, or AN, O, has been covered extensively in this blog, being as it is the symbol of the egg itself. Again, also where the light passes through to encode into memory to give the sense and distinguishing characteristics of time and space and experience. It's all encoded in the egg. An archetypal symbol of the beginning of manifest creation, as well as the immortal principle of the soul, the yolk, and the shells too, all the experiences in a way. Taking CERN with n in its regular value of 50, it has the value of 263, which again, like I said in the last post, is brain. So that's kind of, it's like the brain, the demiurge of Earth, which is the number of the ring. So wait, is it ring? I thought, oh yeah, because the ring is 282, ring. So obviously CERN is a ring, the actual shape of the Large Hadron Collider, as well as the O gate of Thoth Shiva. And again, the ring of O, 70, plus 263 makes 333. This sort of like CERN Shiva gate number. 263 is also the number of the Shiva Mahalingam, this right here, the great phallus of Shiva, along with the brain, the primary center of focus in the Kundalini force, and the fullest expansion of the Mahalingam at the top of the spine. Yeah, the brain itself being the sort of, obviously in like the serpent form, it's the head of the serpent. Grant notes in the ninth arch, like I just said, how the number 263 is the number of gematria, as well as his own last name, Grant itself, relating to the Grant Grimoire, an allusion to the primal grimoire written into the Book of Nature, obviously gematria, the numbers, and apprehendable through the art of gematria. Upon first consideration, writing about the subject of CERN, I remember thinking that there must be some connection to Osiris, the father god of the Egyptians, who presided over the past eon of pastoral or father god paternal religion and male-dominated social institutions. Osiris obviously also connecting to Saturn, Kronos, agriculture, cycles. The lingam obviously falls into this category, but it should also be known that adding CERN 263 to Osiris 650 also again brings 913 mentioned above. CERN is Osiris, and is being 70, or the circle, is 555 in Jewish gematria, just of note. Not that obviously CERN is, because Osiris is the dead and the associated really with the Amenta itself. But then again, it's that magnetic field underlying, and CERN being a sort of like manifestation. I think I do end up saying, yeah, CERN is Choronzon, which obviously is not true because Choronzon is really nothing. But again, this hollow tube, CERN being, like if you look into it, connects all these computers across the world, computer networks, to use the processing power. In a way, the internet itself, CERN, like Choronzon and the internet, kind of has a lot of relations too. And it's, again, it's all numerical, it's all digital, but yet it's encoded into or it's integrated with what's physical on Earth. Like Earth, the surface of Earth, and human interactions, again, are like a microchip. And so taking that into account, we could actually, like with, again, the silent weapons for quiet wars, the fact that social systems are like energy systems, there are obviously ways to not necessarily manipulate, because obviously people are already manipulating people like this, the human use of human beings, cybernetics and all that. There are countermeasures we could also take. And I don't know, like obviously this probably is way too much information densified into one little thing, but I'll still go ahead, maybe someone will get it. I got way off of here, but 248 being Pluto is also Chamer in Hebrew. It has to do with basically, it's funny because that being the number of the Pluto cycles, elementary particle physics, Chamer, it's all related. And again, the discovery of Pluto in the 30s corresponding with quantum mechanics. Obviously, there's, again, a self-referential, there's a strange loop in all of this. So this literal loop, the time loop, I believe is also the time loop, is 333. Again, the myth of the eternal return, all this stuff, it's all looped together, The O's iris, or the eye of the O, is the eye of Draken, or the dragon, again, which sees into the primal grimoire. And again, it also sees out, it recreates, encodes, projects the eternal deep mind with Pe Final. The unconscious area of emotional and instinctual nature in the psyche of each individual. Again, and I have a friend who was saying, like, the present is obviously built on the past, but so much is like in that past that's what we had to go off of, and in a way that's that tale of the dragon. That's that Saturnian. It's the sulfur burning in a lot of ways. It's the sulfur that's kept in that Saturnian soil, so to speak, rising up and out, and I don't know. That's what I see, having studied all this alchemy shit. Literally. It is the source of all psychic powers, the full extent of which is as yet unmeasured and perhaps immeasurable. So this magnetic field that is the unconscious, that is the Qliphoth. It comprises also for each person the counterparts of the planetary archetypes. See pages 394, 395 through 395 of Planetary Magic by Melita Denning and Osborne Phillips. And yeah, their books are really good. The 7 rays, along with the dual polarities of black and white, create the 9 number grid spectrum. The Gnostic physics of the logos within each gematria formula is a holographic computer program within itself, and different programs may interlink, but all follow the same 1 through 9 pattern in one way or another, with 0 being the cipher of the matrix representing the space between numbers, the field itself, the quantum glue itself as well. And look, B with a tau, quantum glue. While the gematria database itself is itself a more left brain way of externalizing the hierarchy, so like I think of Hod and Mercury and all the things associated with that, like the Zohar, the whole concept of breaking all of this down into a gematria database is very Hodic, or of Hod, whereas the application or the practical use of all that, beginning, I guess you could say, with like art, because that's what comes to mind, just putting it all into art is a simple way, but then also inventing things or growing things, putting it into your systems, your agriculture and all that, to be more efficient. Again, 444 is agronomy itself, but it's also the field, I believe in Greek, but it's also flesh and blood. And so what I'm saying is, yeah, it's not all just like left brain, digital data, nerdy bullshit. It can also be integrated with the sort of like right side, Venusian, again, with what's above Venus, or Netzach, it's Chesed, which is all the blueprint. It's the blueprint itself. So explaining it in a way that connects through art, symbols, media, etc. Make it more understandable as an operative tool. So again, that's why it's like all about literally encoding your work, your working, like walking the walk, talking the talk, blah, blah, blah. Like you can, by learning these codes, you can literally just operate on them consciously and therefore manipulate them. And it's literally like, it's like cheat codes in a way, but not that simple. It's not like, oh, I'm going to type in this cheat code and therefore everything changes. You have to revolve around that cheat code in a way. That's what sigil magic, again, in 333, the theory behind it is literally this sowing a seed and then cyclically watering it, nurturing it, and then growing into it in a way. But CERN, and again, Geneva, I don't know if I mentioned it here. CERN is in Geneva. Geneva is 70. So CERN, Geneva, 333. The number of the coil circuit, see previous posts, as well as Choronzon, the guardian of the gate of Thoth, obviously time and generation and unfoldment. 333 is the number of Shiva egg, a form of the Shiva lingam, which corresponds with the obsidian egg of Thoth, also 333. A talismanic Itzaxar stone, Itzaxar is again associated with 333, the sort of manifestation or incarnation of the Silba concept, which is like unmanifestation, or the field again. There's all these different ways of saying these different things, but again, they resonate, and that's the important thing about having time and all these different emanations or manifestations to draw from and relate things to, which fell into my possession on April 2nd, 2011, the same day Frédéric Chaude discovered, but in 1948, the key of Ma'ayan 107, which he realized had to do with the egg mentioned in Librael chapter 1 verse 49, the babe in the egg, and by Amalantra In 2011 happened to be 107 years itself, or the 107th anniversary of the reception of the Book of the Law in 1904. Kenneth Grant himself doesn't note it specifically, but April 2nd was also the date that R'lyeh sunk into the sea in the Call of Cthulhu, I later found out, which is significant considering how much he refers to this, and then also what he calls perichoresis, or interpenetrations, or alignments, basically, correspondences of time zones, or universes, in this case fictional with actual, thus further showing a Dothian connection. So again, the Doth being the mauve zone, or the twilight zone, twilight again being this between connection to the date of the R'lyeh call. Again, the call and R'lyeh, the Call of Cthulhu. 333, which brings with it the potential forces of ultimate obliteration, being achalasia, dispersion, i.e. like radiation or explosion. And again, 333, it's like if there was a number that had like a biohazard or a nuclear waste sign all over it, like 333 would be it. I mean, if you just put them together, you've got the nuclear waste or the biohazard symbol. If one half of the cosmic force, which were unified with its reflection, creates the 666 power of ultimate destruction, which again, Shiva, in the word destruction is 666, a force which is feared, but which also has a purpose for creating that which is new. So again, it's a creative and destructive number, being this like solar power, solar fusion, nuclear fusion number. The one who presides over this force is, of course, Shiva, god of destruction. When you use not the full values, but the lowest values of this, Shiva, god of destruction, is 666. A force not to be feared, but aligned in balance with, for destruction is also necessary for the moving of sorrows and obstacles. Thus, to find that 666 is also the number of sorrows shows that this number is one of deep pain. Again, the cycle of the wheel, the Buddhist wheel of samsara also comes to mind. The circle of life. A pain that cannot be ignored without empowering. Note that CERN is Kuranzan is 666 as well, or CERN O Kuranzan, CERN being Kuranzan. CERN's particle and CERN particles, as well as the ultimate science, is 666. So yeah, I found this super significant, that Higgs boson itself is 333, as well as collision, which is what they used to find the Higgs boson. So together, obviously, is 666. Which is the part containing the whole which can't be separated from the whole. Again, it makes me also think of Janus, and, I quoted Arthur Kessler's Janus, but the whole concept of Janus being the god of the gaps and the doorways, too, and beginnings and endings. January, which is the part containing the whole which can't be separated from the whole. The egg of Doth itself, which is the night side of Eden gate. I guess a sort of figurative gateway opening to this sort of dark aspect, or the Clephothic side of, the tree of life, the black tree. The looking glass, or mirror, of the backward subconscious. The subconscious is accessed via the route of in-betweenness, such as abstract art and offbeat rhythms, or asymmetry. Also, the consonants and the vowels in between them play major roles in the process of formation, being, again, this like the spaces, the fluid. But Kenneth Grant mentions in Outer Gateways that the Egyptian priests celebrated the gods, i.e. the primordial powers, or the great old ones, by chanting the 7 vowels referred to by Demetrius in the Mithraic ritual as the sounding letters. Nicomachus in the 2nd century mentions not only vowels and consonants, but also unarticulated sounds reminiscent of the hissing speech to which Solinus alludes in connection with the black stone Adzaxar. And the word Adzaxar is supposed to be like one of these barbarous words, or a word that kind of again, geometrically breaks outside, like it's abstract, non-Euclidean in a way. According to the ritual, whenever theurgists are awestruck, i.e. entranced, they make invocations symbolically by means of hissing and poppings, and unarticulated discordant sounds. Hissings and poppings point to the Ophidian cult. Pop, with Apophis, the serpent, the Apep of the Egyptians. The Greek term for these strange sounds denote a shrill piping or hissing, and the Latin term stridor or stridor, a singing in the ears. The word popping is used to denote a clicking or clucking with the lips and tongue, and it is interesting to recall in this connection that according to Gerald Massey in The Natural Genesis, the earliest forms of human speech resembling the clicking of the cough ape. And everyone's heard, the African clicking sort of speech. This creature typified the link between human and non-human articulation. Med calls attention to the whistling, cheeping, chirruping, warbling, and trilling of birds, which in turn recalls Lovecraft's obsession that the croaking of the Ranidae and the ululations of certain insects herald the proximity of the Old Ones. Aristophanes and Pliny describe such inarticulate stridors as a greeting of lightning, the elemental characteristic par excellence of extraterrestrial intervention. So again, this sort of like static fuzz or buzz that would necessarily be, come along with some sort of transmission or breaking of sound or dimensional or light barriers. Kind of like with DMT and Terence McKenna, he's like, it does cause like a ringing in the ears and a sort of a stretching of all the spectrums of awareness to their max, and then some, like beyond that. But yet there's still spectral emanations. That's the thing. That's the characteristic or the hallmark of DMT and other psychedelics is the fact that there are spectral or there's some sort of happening. There's something happening, but on a level that is so abnormal, it makes you question the nature of this spectrum and this reality, I guess. It's never made me think this reality isn't real necessarily. If anything, it's just made me wonder what the hell is the nature of all this? What is the nature of the mind? Obviously, if you could harness that power, the power that, seems to be revealed, like, to me, that's like the source of a lot of there could be a lot of creative stuff there, basically. I mean, basically, I think there's a powerhouse a treasure house of ideas and creative potential that maybe it never can be really tapped or shouldn't be tapped and controlled or extorted, exploited, because that's obviously what people would do with it. One of the secret ancient names of God was an arrangement of the vowels in a form resembling A, E, I, A-E-E, I, O, U, U, Y, so etc. This is the word of doth, in the sense it actually equals 411, the hidden knowledge beneath the words and between the consonants. So again, it's like that Abraxas formula, but with the vowels. I guess I missed a word there, but I said vibration of this word would be like a long, shrill shout arising very deep internally to an exhaustive bellow, symbolizing the word of words. The 411 is the one, being 410 with tau, and then 1 or A, the A, as in the pillar of light which consumes and connects all. 411 is also, again, it makes me think like, obviously 411 being doth, knowledge, 411 is like the international number for knowledge. 411 is also Yeshua in full, showing the relations between the Word of light and God, and the Word made flesh, Jesus, etc. Counting it in simple gematria, the same number of Higgs boson in Jewish gematria is obtained. The crown of creation, the mystery of Hermes, again, the messenger of knowledge and language and science, Thoth, Lucifer. The name Hermes comes from Herma, a stone, the cornerstone the builders rejected. The secretus, Latin secretus, set apart, withdrawn, hidden, concealed, private. Past participle of cesarnere, to set apart, part, divide, exclude, from se, without, apart, properly, on one's own, cernere, separate. So again, cern, right there. The wave form and the concept of the antimatter are both connected to this knowledge, the waveform carrying the shells of the antimatter. Again, because you have to consider things over time and their change and their effects. 353 in simple gematria is also the holy name of God is in the vowels. Note that 353, again, is also Christian, is 58, ha'abin, the stone, less than 411. 58 being a number exalted by the Knights Templar. Pop has the same value as the phrase given by Amalantra, "It's all in the egg," and is also the name of the 19th Enochian ether. I was 19 when I began this blog and cracked or popped the egg into place in order to pop the telepathic bubble that has since developed around these subjects, while no one is taking care to work through them any further, or so it seems. 19 is the egg in simple gematria, just it's 5 plus 7 plus 7, and represents the spectrum of 1 through 9, beyond which is the outside of the egg of the matrix, or chaos. Pop the 19 egg equals 999, taking final pay as 800. The number of the strange loop egg, i.e. the full matrix, and it is within 999 or 999 that the key to the mystery is found in its most complete form, and having aligned myself to this number before knowing what it meant fully, I was aligning to my true will, which is the unlocking of certain gates within these keys so as to fill the gaps that have for too long gone ignored. In continually popping the egg, or hatching, and going further, we are able to attune to higher knowledge that we were unaware of, which is urgently more necessary now than ever. And this is from this Bonnie Jaunt book. She actually says 999 is this number of to go in a circle. It's not letting me look at it, but the complete history of man will have come full circle from perfection lost to perfection regained. This is why the Greek periago means to go in a circle. And the word, I believe it's the Hebrew word for perfection, is also 1,000. And 1,000, again, being 10 times 10 times 10, is Malkuth cubed. 999 being, again, Nymphe, the bride or the daughter. Obviously with the one, the phallus, being the perfection. 1,000 has a lot of connections to it, though. Him that so Nikon, like the victorious, the victor. Curio, the Lord. Perfect. 10, that's kind of significant. Fire and brimstone, the wicked, all who do evil. There's a lot to that geometric, all these geometric relations. And I had actually came up with this concept, and I was like, if I called this anything, it would be called like visionary geometry. And I was like, well, what would that equal? I don't know why. With a shin, visionary geometry is 999. To go in a circle has a Hebrew-English gematria value of 474, though. The number of Doth itself, obviously that whole concept, and the time, the center of the loop or liku of the Ankh. Doth, obviously, makes me think of the Sipapu, or that point in the house of, I forgot what Indians. 474 is also the time, and therefore also the myth, which contains the knowledge, showing the definite connection between Thoth and time. 999 minus 474 is Choronzon, 525. Therefore, Choronzon guards the gate of knowledge of 999, the supreme knowledge, of the toroidal cyclic nature of being, or again, the O, the ring. CERN plus Shiva is 4 less than 999, using non-final. 4, or Daleth, is symbolic of the door or doorway, particularly of the elements, but also of the 4 states of consciousness, Jagrat, Swapna, Susupti, and Turiya. If the diagram to the left is extended indefinitely into the future, it would coil back in on itself, forming the past, and thus create an infinite number of parallel possible timelines. However, recent propositions, which parallel some of the most ancient, have shown that time is not linear like we are used to thinking, but beginning and endless. See Big Bang deflated? Universe may have had no beginning. 333 is also the number of Atlas plus Ovum Mundi, or the egg of the world in Latin, or mind of the universe. See page 148, The Book of Earths by Edna Kenton. Relating to the mind of the world aspect, it should be noted that, and again, Atlas holds the world on his back. It should be noted that in regard to what has been said in the last 2 posts about the World Wide Web, the WWW was actually developed and born out of research by nuclear physicists at CERN. See The Birth of the Web. Atlas is one of 2 general-purpose detectors at the Large Hadron Collider. It investigates a wide range of physics, from the search for the Higgs boson to extra dimensions and particles that could make up dark matter. Note that Atlas detector has a value of 411, or 411, that of Thoth in Hebrew English gematria, as well as dark matter in Jewish gematria. 411 is also the number of solve, or solve, which means to dissolve, or also to solve a problem or equation. And again, the obverse, or the opposite, is 114, and that's the value of coagula. 411 is also a number meaning information, thus relating further to Thoth. Note also that the God particle, plus Ovum Mundi, is 666, the infinity atlas of the Higgs boson collision. So again, 411 makes me think of how, again, we attribute meaning to numbers. In his book, The Voodoo Gnostic Workbook, Michael Bertaux talks extensively about what he terms the meon, which is ultimately the void of inconceivable nothingness. The zone of the meon happens to have a value of 411, which is also that of the duat, related to Thoth as the dark double, the Egyptian underworld. The meon is related by Kenneth Grant to Frater Achad's magical formula of Ma-ion. And in Hecate's Fountain, Grant says meon is a term coined by Michael Bertaux to denote certain aspects of the Ma-ion, and the eon of the Maotians, in relation to the dark doctrine of the Dothian Gnosis. In the glossary to Outer Gateways, the meon is more extensively described. The heavenly habitation, a punning euphemism for the vulva. According to Inman, the Beth Baal meon was a temple of lascivious rites. The connection with the Ma-ion, see Cults of the Shadow Chapter 8, is via the metaphysical meaning of the term meon, which denotes the habitation of the outer ones back of the Tree of Life. It is an expression used by the Black Snake cultists to denote Universe B, the reflex of Universe A, the known universe. Meon means a dwelling or habitation. The meon is the 0 point itself, which, like a gate or doorway, opens on to an infinite number of realms, being as it is a symbol of the eye or vulva of the birth canal. So again, literally the womb or the veil of Isis. Mystics and mages have been aware of this realm for eons and have maintained their own organic atlas detectors in the castle of their skulls, or Golgotha, the place of the skull. O, as Aeon, the eye, or Anya, refers to not the dual eyes of matter, but the singular inner eye of the pineal gland or third eye, which sees in the dark of the meon and which gives access to ma'ayon, i.e. the ends of manifestation as the doorway thereof. The ends of manifestation in the microcosmic sense would be the birth and death of life, or the beginning and end of the spectrum, while on the macrocosmic scale would be the explosion and implosion of a galactic cycle. Significantly, the meon using non-final is 1225, the number of the crossed keys, 35 times 35, 35 being the number of key, as well as the triangular number or sum of 49, 7 times 7, which is that of the vulva, in a number of Venus. 1225 enumerates the Greek mezurana madi, meaning the midst of heaven or mid-heaven, from Revelation 14:6, relating to the heavenly habitation. 1225 is the sum of Atalan plus Nalata, using non-final again, a mysterious phrase in Liber Akbish, which connects to the meon again using teth and non-final as 834, the verse in Liber Akbish which says, "A prophet shall expound the mysteries of Atalan." This is on page 483, a metathesis of 834, and 483 itself is a number of Atalan, a word which resembles both Atlantis and Atlas. The next verse shows Atalan reversed as Nalata, which is where the original Atalan plus Nalata comes from, in the Book of the Spider. Both commentaries to these verses mention a stone or egg, particularly one which is used for scrying, which is what I initially obtained my talismanic egg for. At-al-an can be translated from Hebrew as the essence of God of the Most High, or the essence of God the Most High. On meaning sky and referring to Heliopolis, the center of the sun, i.e. the essence of the Most High God. Note also that 1225 is also the value of the Hebrew Exodus 3:15. This is my eternal name, and this is my memory from generation to generation, as well as the Ancient of the Ancient Ones, i.e. the Demiurge itself, which speaks through the generations of matter. The formula of reversal is applied to this, Nalata, showing that this transmission goes both ways. Again, T-sharp, Bereshith, between creator, demiurge, overself, and creation, individuated being, lower self, microcosm, etc. Because there is a reflective relationship between, again, the I, the soul, and what is experienced. The solar center and the Saturnian rings of time. And that reflection is key, for that which is below is like that which is above, and that which is without is like that which is within. The Most High God is thus the eternal totality of now. And again, now is the same value as lux. And eon. Light is extremely relevant, as it is what gives the opportunity for perception as well as measurement. The earth was first discovered to be round through the measurement of sunlight, which for many was seen as a form of God itself. The Freemason god of light is Lucifer, and Lucifer is the hidden god, as the origin and nature of light is, because again, he's the highest angel fallen as Satan. Again, it's the fall of the circle. It's all one big spectrum, though. It's the serpent eating its tail. The serpent and the dove essentially are one. As the origin and nature of light is highly elusive when attempts are made to analyze it. Nikola Tesla once said in an interview with a journalist named John Smith in 1899 that everything is light. While some scientists may say instead that a better way of putting it would be everything is energy, for those who have experience as light workers, the two are understood to be the same, for light, energy, and number are all the same fundamental components, quanta. Note that quanta equals 558, the value of light worker, as well as letters, as well as Hriliu, i.e. the pure creative energy, associated with Vril. The Big Bang and cosmological evolution of the universe arose out of pure geometry. The new geometric version of quantum field theory could also facilitate the search for a theory of quantum gravity that would seamlessly connect the large and small-scale pictures of the universe. Attempts thus far to incorporate gravity into the laws of physics at the quantum scale have run up against nonsensical infinities and deep paradoxes. The amplituhedron, or a similar geometric object, could help by removing two deeply rooted principles of physics, locality and unitarity. The amplituhedron itself does not describe gravity, but Arkani Hamed and his collaborators think that there might be a related geometric object that does. And again, they're pointing out the diamond here. And I think that the diamond implies this sort of unfolding aspect of the three dimensions, which is hard to grasp, but slowly, I think we're slowly doing it. And here I said, thanks to Soror722 for pointing out the relation of the diamond to the geometry of light. See also the diamond of perfection and a jewel at the heart of quantum physics. In the esoteric sense, light refers to anything that provides illumination or perception and need not only be dense physical light, but also the dark light of the mind as well. Again, the magnetism, electromagnetism. Light is manifestation itself in whatever form, being as it is distinguished as separate from the meonic void of nothingness. So space, light, and time are all interconnected, and space, light, and time is 666, again, all of which is connected. This act of separation is referred to in many different ways throughout sacred texts as the face of the waters over the deep, the incarnation of the ego from the overself, or the fall of mankind, or the spark of the soul, through the agency of Lucifer. This act of separation is ultimately the separation of Hadit and Nuit, which come back together in love, and thus creating the atomic blast of creation known as thelemic terminology as Heru Raha, containing the dual polarity of Rahur Kuit and Hurpar Krat, the outer and the inner dawn. The name Golden Dawn, referring to the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, which Aleister Crowley himself was originally initiated into, relates to this idea of the dawning twilight, which is golden in essence, being as it is an alchemical marriage of the light, day, and dark, night, the ever-coming illumination of the morning star, Lucifer, the guide of initiation through the Saturnian or satanic morass of matter. Lucifer is the Gnostic light bringer, whose gnosis lies encoded in the geometric light gematria, particularly under the great satanic seal of 666, so abhorred and feared. The Brotherhood seal of the magical Masonic alphabet code, which I am revealing through this publication. Lucifer in the Devil card is known as the Lord of the Gates of Matter, which is relevant to the subject of CERN, which is seeking to find the primary unit of physical matter. The Gates of Matter, so the Lord of the Gates of Matter, the Gates of Matter, has a value of 437, which is that of Freemason. And I've mentioned this before. The measurer and master of the material craft. Note that 437 is also the number of brotherhood, a term used by Freemasons, and 437 is also the Hebrew lethbah, meaning ark or arch, both of which are related to the supreme knowledge of Freemasonry, the Royal Arch and the Ark of the Covenant, which both veil astrotheological concepts. See Stellar Theology and Masonic Astronomy by Robert Hewitt Brown. This word can also mean box or chest or stone, which could also refer to the cube of space, i.e. the matrix of manifestation or matter. Notice the black stone on which the devil is sitting in A215 of the tarot. The man and woman are chained to a ring on the Saturnian stone of matter, symbolic of the cycle of time. 6 is the number of the cube from the outside, but from the inside all is reflected by the inner light, and the 6 faces double to become 12, and the central light of manifestation
becomes 13, symbolic of the immortal principle which stands at the center of the axle of the wheel of life, or the hub, HUB, 5 plus 6 plus 2, veiled under the cube of Metatron. 437 is also the number of the Greek Choronzon, whose name in Hebrew is 333, corresponding to his title as the gatekeeper. The gates of matter, referenced also in the ninth arch under the form of the gate of onyx, or again the man named Black who shall open the gate, onyx being symbolic of the black Saturnian density of manifestation. This is the supreme gate of matter which is prophesied in that text to be opened by a man named Black, which has been in effect since the terrestrial manifestation of the stellar load of Ma-Ion in 2011 as the veil of Isis, or matter, has been increasingly lifted through the exposition of this previously secret wisdom. Secret not because people intended for it to be so, but because the necessary events had not yet occurred yet for it to come into view. With the deeper inquiries into matter by programs such as CERN, much more of this wisdom will be secreted and made available and understood, being as this is a collective process, the lights of which the materialist scientists cannot at this time fully appreciate, but may eventually as these currents further their manifestation. And here's a stone engraving in Vatican City with 666 within a Freemasonic compass and square. Obviously they too know there's something geometric about it. The apocalypse is, to those who have received the 19th degree, the apotheosis of that sublime faith which aspires to God alone, and despises all the pomps and works of Lucifer. Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light, and with its splendor intolerable, blinds feeble, sensual, or selfish souls? Doubt it not. For traditions are full of divine revelations and inspirations, and inspiration is not of one age nor of one creed. Plato and Philo also were inspired. The Apocalypse, indeed, is a book as obscure as the Zohar. It is written hieroglyphically with numbers and images, and the apostle often appeals to the intelligence of the initiated. Let him who hath knowledge understand. Let him who understands calculate. He often says, after an allegory or the mention of a number. St. John, the favorite apostle, and the depository of all the secrets of the Savior, therefore did not write to be understood by the multitude. The Sefer Yetzirah, the Zohar, and the Apocalypse are the completest embodiments of occultism. They contain more meanings than words. Their expressions are figurative as poetry and as exact as numbers. The Apocalypse sums up, completes, and surpasses all the words of Abraham and of Solomon. The visions of Ezekiel by the river Chebar and of the new symbolic temple are equally mysterious expressions veiled by figures of the enigmatic dogmas of the Kabbalah, and their symbols are as little understood by the commentators as those of Freemasonry. Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma.
These are the Bible and shall be in our understands not